Welcome to Daily Calisthenics. My name is Achim, I'm a professional calisthenics athlete and my goal is to make you better in this sport, no matter if you're a beginner or an advanced. Today I want to talk about pain that a lot of people have in their wrists, elbows or forearms from training calisthenics exercises like handstand, planches, or maybe even Hefestos or other similar exercises. If you have problems with that, I would highly recommend you to watch this video till the end. I think that I might have some information for you that could save you a lot of time that you would spend injured otherwise. I know that this video is not the shortest, but some good things just take time. Before I start giving you advice, I want to make clear that I don't know you personally and I also don't know your situation. You are fully responsible on your own for everything you do after watching this video. The advice that I will be giving you is for pain that often occurs due to disbalance or to an overload after training too much for a certain movement. A very high amount of pain in this sport is caused by such reasons, but not 100%. So if you think that you actually have something more serious, like a snapped tendon, then I would recommend you to search for an expert. This video is not for you if you have pain because of a trauma or maybe because of falling down on your wrist. And now let's get started. The first good message that I have for you is that it is very likely that there is a solution for the problem you have. And this solution often does not even mean that you have to stop training your favorite moves. Often you just have to change things up or add some exercises to your routines. But before we start talking about that, we have to talk about what causes the pain that you might have. I want to explain you the reason for the pain before I show you some methods to get rid of it, because otherwise it will be hard to understand. If you still want to skip that part, you can go to the time that is appearing on the screen right now. Mostly it is a combination of an overload and an unbalanced style of training that makes the pain appear. I will shortly explain to you what that means. Having an overload means that you might have been training too much for a certain exercise or that you did not have enough rest between trainings so that your structures could regenerate themselves. While training moves like handstands, planches or maybe even Hefesto, your wrist is always in a very similar, extended position. This extensions makes it harder for your structures to bear the load. The flexor muscles of your forearms and its tendons may not be able to hold the burden over longer periods of time. Especially if you only train movements like this and if you don't get enough rest. In some cases you do not even need these extensions in order to create an overload, and you could also possibly get it from other calisthenics exercises that involves your wrists, forearms or elbows, like maybe regular pull-ups or muscle-ups. This overload we just talked about then leads to symptoms like pain in your wrist, elbows or forearms. Your body often signals pain if these structures could not fully regenerate or if they are demolished with micro ruptures that could not fully heal after your workouts. Note that these three areas are connected to each other, since the most of your flexor muscles of your forearms go all the way up till the elbow, starting from your wrist or from your fingers. So if you have pain in one of these areas, it is very likely that the other two are also involved. There are also some other muscles that don't go all the way down, like the brachialis or the pronator teres. Training a lot of planche, for example, can also lead to pain in these muscles without your wrist being involved because of the locked out elbows. It is also good to know that the blades where the tendons of a muscle fuse to the bone are the weakest parts of the system. So an overload of a muscle can often lead to pain in these areas. Often there are many muscles involved in causing the pain and not only one. If you want to exactly know which of the many muscles that you have may cause the pain, and if you want to know where the tendons of these muscles are, then I would recommend you to do some research by yourself or to maybe ask an expert. There are some really good sources that you can use in order to learn about human anatomy by yourself. I will give you a link in the description for one of my recommendations. In a lot of cases you do not even have to know the exact muscle in order to get rid of the pain, but it still can't hurt to know. The next thing that often leads to pain or to an overload is an unbalanced style of training. But what does that mean? Your body can move in different directions, and for every movement that is caused by a muscle or by a group of muscle, there's also a contrary movement that is done by another group of muscles. These groups should be trained evenly in order to maintain a balanced body. I will give you an example. Your biceps does a contrary movement to your triceps. And the flexors of your forearm do a contrary movement to your extensors. So if you train one of these a lot, it would be also good to train the other group as well. To train in a balanced way does not only have to mean to train all groups, but it could also mean to use the full range of motion in your training. So if you do a lot of exercises where your wrist is extended, it would be also good to do exercises where it is very contracted. Like for example during a ring muscle up with a force grip. Injuries or pain often occur if one muscle group is trained much more than the other ones, or if you only do movements in a certain range of motion. The reason for that is that an unbalanced style of training often leads to muscle stiffness or to increased muscle tone. If you only train one component all of the time, you will end up staying in an unnatural position and the muscles on one side will be stiffer or under more tension than the ones on the other side. You will also not be able to bring enough movement to all areas of your body. This will also lead to the fact that you won't be able to bring the blood flowing in all areas of your body, and if this happens, you will also have worse regeneration. You can picture your muscles and tissues like a sponge that wants to get full of blood with nutrients. In order to get as much water as possible into a sponge, you will have to squeeze it in every direction as much as you can in order to fill it up again afterwards. A similar process also happens in our bodies, only a little more complicated. So you should move in a lot of different directions and in a lot of different ways in order to stay balanced and in order to regenerate better. An increased muscle tone that occurs when you abuse your body with an unbalanced style of training is also a problem, because it can lead to constricted blood vessels that get stuck between your muscles, which are contracted all of the time because of the tightness. So you will get even less nutrients to the area where the overload happened in that case, and that means that your regeneration will be even slower. The muscles need also energy in the form of ATP in order to let loose. And if the flow is interrupted, it can come to a vicious cycle of pain, stiffness, and a disturbed healing process. Exactly that happens in most of the cases, since an overload often comes together with an unbalanced style of training. Now you know a little bit more about the processes that are probably happening in your body right now if you are experiencing pain from working out. So let's see what methods can help you to fix that. At first you gotta know that it is most important to fix the cause of the problem in the beginning. It is good to make use of methods that fasten the healing process or decrease the pain, but if you don't get rid of the actual problem, it will all come back again sooner or later. So always try to get rid of the cause first. Method 1. Decrease your training intensity or take a rest. If you feel pain during or after an exercise, you should probably do less of this exercise at first. Your structures will need some time to recover if they are overloaded from doing it. But taking a complete training break is mostly not that helpful. It is normally much more efficient to just decrease the load of the exercises that are causing your problems, while also making use of other methods that are supporting the healing process. I will show you more of them now. Method 2. Add variations in order to stay balanced. Sometimes it is only exact one position that causes the pain. It can help a lot to regularly add variations of a certain exercise to your training. For example, you can try out a different grip while doing a handstand if the normal variation causes you pain. This method also applies to all other calisthenics exercises, like for example the planche. You should also do this even if you're not injured or maybe after your injury went away. This can prevent you from future injuries that may happen because of imbalances, just like I described before. Maybe you can keep training your favorite exercise just with a different variation until the pain goes away. Just try it out and you will see. Sometimes you need to play around a bit. It's not always a solution, but it can be a solution. Sometimes it's really necessary to take a complete rest of an exercise. Since I don't know you, I can say if that's your case. If you're feeling like you can't do any variation because your body is so tired of an exercise, then maybe you should stop training it for some time. Another tip that I can give you here is to slowly let go instead of just getting out of the position normally if you're doing an exercise where your wrist is under a lot of tension. This can also help you to decrease the pain. Method number 3. Add compensation exercises. Of course, you should also add exercises for the reverse movement or maybe even stretches. This will help you to maintain a balanced body, just like I described before. So if you're doing a lot of exercises with an extended wrist or an extended elbow, it would probably also be good to add some exercises where those are flexed. And if you train your flexors a lot while doing handstands or maybe planches, you should probably also train your extensors. Here are some examples for exercises that you can do. First, back of the hand push-ups. You can do these in order to restore the balance by increasing the strength of your extensors. Try them in a suitable position in order to not injure yourself. There are harder and easier variations. Second, gymnastic band exercises. You can also train your muscles with these bands. Just play around a bit and search for a movement that feels good. If it feels good, it will also help very likely. That's the body's way of telling you. Here are some examples that might help you. Just try them out. Third, stretches. The same rule applies here. Do stretches in the opposite direction of where you normally move. If your fingers always get extended a lot by doing handstands and similar stuff, it will probably be good to stretch them like this, for example. You can also create your own exercise or search for movements that are the opposite of the one that you normally do. That is not a big problem if you have a basic understanding for the human body. The principle of a balanced body applies almost everywhere. Just search for exercises that are the opposite movement of what you normally do. The methods I showed you so far will help you to get rid of the cause. These methods are definitely the foundation of a good healing process. You should apply all of them anyways, even if you're not injured, just in order to prevent future injuries. The only thing you won't need to do, of course, is to decrease the load if you're not injured. But applying only those methods may not always help you to get rid of the pain or of the overload immediately. Therefore, it would be good to also make use of methods that fasten or support the healing process in addition. I will show you some of the most popular now. Method 4. Move in order to increase the blood flow. Moving a certain body part will also increase the blood flow in this area. Since the blood is full with nutrients, this will also help you to fasten the healing process. That's simple. So if you have pain in a certain area, it can help a lot to just do lighter exercises with higher repetitions or normal movements. Just go for whatever feels good to you. There is an endless number of variations that you can do. Here are some examples for movements that you can do in order to increase the blood flow in your elbows, forearms and wrists. Doing such movements can also have the same effect like described before when I talked about compensation exercises. Method number 5. Massages. In order to stimulate the metabolism or the healing process, you can also massage yourself. The idea is that you signal your body that it really needs to work on the area which you're massaging. You can massage yourself with your hands or also with some tools for that. Just search for areas that feel like you want to squeeze or push them. You maybe will do that automatically. If you feel a relieving kind of pain, you're probably doing it right. There are many ways of massaging yourself. Some recommend to just keep pushing a certain spot, and others like to go over it again and again. I personally have made pretty good experiencing by massaging myself pretty hard on a certain spot by going over it again and again. But be careful, you don't want to injure yourself even more. You can try out hard massages if the kind of pain you feel is still relieving. But if your muscles get under too much stress or tension while doing it, it may also be counterproductive. So be careful. Two classic methods are using a roll or something you can find in order to roll out your forearm from the hand to the elbow, or using a ball in order to massage the area right underneath your elbow. This is where a lot of muscles of the forearm come together, and if you're experiencing pain, it is very likely that one of them is involved. So try it out and check if you can find a hard spot that feels good to be squeezed or pushed. If you find it, then go over it again and again or keep pushing if you want to try that out. Massaging the area with your fingers is sometimes better because you will be able to find the right spot easier. But the roll or the ball can still be helpful sometimes. You can find some of the tools that I am using here in the video's description. Not every massaging method works out well for everyone or for every case. You will probably have to play around a bit and find out what's good for you. But trust me, the time spent can be really worth it if you regenerate faster because of this. Just be patient and try out different variations and see what feels good. Knowing the anatomy is also a big plus here, since you will be able to know what you're massaging then. I would also recommend you to generally inform yourself about this topic if you are interested in knowing more. I put some links that may be interesting for you in the description. Method 6. Flossing. The idea of flossing is similar to the idea of doing a massage. There are athletes, including myself, that have made good experiences with this method in the past. But science still doesn't know everything that is going on in the body while doing this. The basic idea is to stimulate the metabolism and the blood flow by squeezing out a certain area first. The body should send more nutrients and blood to that area afterwards than they were there before. If you remember my example of the sponge that needs to be squeezed out in order to be filled with new water again, you might understand that. You can probably use pretty much every resistance band that you might have at home. Take the band and wrap it tightly around the affected area, so maybe your elbow or your wrist. It is mostly recommended to keep it on the spot for 1 to 3 minutes. Then you can take it off again. If it feels very bad, you can also let go of it earlier, of course. In order to boost the effect, you can do certain movements or exercises for the affected area while the band is on your body. Just experiment around a bit. Your body will probably tell you what's good anyways. It's the same like with the massage. If you feel a kind of relieving pain, it's probably working. There are also some bands especially made for that. I will give you a link in the description if you're interested. Method 7. Baths. Cold or warm baths are also known for increasing the healing process, and you can make use of that as well if you want to. I think I don't have to explain a lot about that, since you probably already know it. Now you have seen some methods that I would recommend you to do if you have pain from certain calisthenics exercises or other movements. Our general rules I explained here also apply for other problems, like maybe shoulder pain or problems from working out in the gym. The truth about getting back on track again after having such problems is that you will have to find your very own way to go through it. There is nothing like the one and only method that works out for every person and for every case. Everyone is different and everyone has also different problems. That's why I would highly recommend you to try all of these methods and to find out what works best for you. Only one of them will probably not get you fully recovered, but the right combination of all helpful methods can be very effective. Of course, you could also do some other helpful things that I didn't show in this video if you know something. Even in this long video, I could not tell you every single piece of information that is out there about the problem you might have. If you want to know more about the processes that are happening in your body during an overload, or if you want to know more about the human anatomy and about what's going on, then I would highly recommend you to do some research by yourself. Maybe even search for an expert in this area, especially if you're applying all the methods I showed you and you don't get better at all. I really want to tell you how important it is to keep searching for a solution if you have a problem. Play around and try everything out. But most important, be consistent and also be patient about your healing process. It may take you some weeks or even months to fully recover, but it will be worth it in the end. Also do the exercises regularly, maybe even daily, but at least 2 to 3 times a week. It is very unlikely that you will do too much of them. As I told you several times before in this video, your body will probably notice what works out good for you. So listen to it. It can sometimes be even more accurate than modern science. Make it your current main training goal to get well again, so that you can achieve even higher goals afterwards again. Check out the other videos on this channel if you're interested in more calisthenics related videos or tutorials. Also make sure to check out the description for some additional informations and for some links that I told you about during the video. Share this video with your friends or with your training partners if you know someone that might be needing it. I hope that I could help you with this video, and I wish you to recover as soon as possible. See you!